The days leading up to Elon Musk's visit were a blur for Thomas. He hardly slept, pacing around the farm in a haze of disbelief and nervous anticipation. His mind raced, wondering what Musk would think when he saw the farm for himself. Would the billionaire truly understand? Or would he see it as just another lost cause in a world filled with far bigger problems? No matter what happened, this was a moment Thomas would never forget. But a part of him feared it might all crumble before his eyes. The farm, once a symbol of pride, now felt like a heavy burden. The crops were sparse, barely surviving, and the soil had been stripped of its nutrients over the years of relentless weather and poor management. Thomas and Sarah had tried everything. They'd invested in new seeds, fertilizers, and farming technology, but nothing seemed to work. The fields had become a graveyard for dreams. The bills piled up, and the bank had given them an ultimatum. If they didn't find a way to pay off the debts, the farm would be taken from them. It was a ticking clock, and no one seemed to hear the ticking louder than Thomas. Sarah, his wife, had been his rock through all of this. She stood by him through thick and thin, even when the future looked uncertain. But the stress was taking its toll on her, too. She hadn't been sleeping well, and the worry etched deep lines into her face. Every time she looked at Thomas, she could see the pain he was hiding. She knew how much this farm meant to him, how much it meant to their family. They had no other choice but to keep going, but how could they when everything seemed to be falling apart? As the day of Musk's visit approached, Thomas could hardly focus on anything. He spent his days cleaning up the place, trying to make it look presentable, though he knew it wasn't enough. The house was small and rundown, the fields overgrown with weeds, the barn in desperate need of repair. But he hoped that if he could show Musk his determination, his love for the land, maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to make a difference. On the morning of the visit, Thomas woke up before dawn. The air was crisp, and the early light cast long shadows across the fields. He felt like he was walking through a dream, unsure of what was real and what wasn't. His hands shook as he prepared breakfast for Sarah, who was already up, trying to calm her own nerves. She smiled weakly, but Thomas could see the worry in her eyes. They both knew that this visit could be their last chance. The sound of a car approaching snapped them from their thoughts. Thomas's heart pounded in his chest as he rushed outside. There in front of their home was a black SUV. The door opened, and out stepped a man wearing sunglasses and a tailored suit. A man who looked completely out of place in the middle of the rural countryside. But behind him, walking slowly, was the person Thomas had only ever seen on television or in news articles. Elon Musk. The sight of him, so much larger than life, nearly knocked the breath out of Thomas. He was just a farmer. What could he possibly say to someone like Musk? Musk didn't waste any time. He extended a hand, smiling warmly. "You must be Thomas. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person." Thomas shook his hand, feeling a mix of awe and fear. I'm honored you're here." "Let's take a look around," Musk said, his voice calm, yet full of purpose. "Show me what's going on." The tour of the farm felt like an eternity. As they walked through the fields, Musk asked questions. How long had Thomas been farming? What kind of crops had he been growing? How had the weather affected the harvests? Thomas answered each question, doing his best to remain composed, though his mind was racing. He watched Musk closely as they passed the crops. Musk seemed to be paying attention to every detail. He didn't dismiss the situation, nor did he offer empty words of sympathy. He was observing, processing. Sarah had joined them after a few minutes, standing off to the side, her arms crossed. She couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blooming inside her. Maybe this was the breakthrough they needed. But as she watched Musk's eyes scanning the fields, she noticed something else. a look on his face, a look that sent a chill down her spine. It was concern. It was clear that Musk saw the same things they had seen. The soil was depleted, the irrigation system barely functional, the machinery aging and unreliable. The farm was on the brink of collapse, and no amount of optimism could change that. But he didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to walk, his silence louder than words. Finally, they reached the back of the property, where the barn stood. It had once been a hub of activity, but now it was silent, its wooden walls cracking with age. Musk turned to Thomas. "You've worked hard," he said, his voice softer now, more contemplative. "I can see that. But it's going to take more than just hard work to turn this around. You need resources, technology, and help from people who understand the land like you do." Thomas swallowed hard, feeling a lump form in his throat. Was this the moment? Was Musk going to offer the lifeline he so desperately needed? Or was he about to deliver the crushing blow they'd feared? Musk's eyes locked with Thomas's. "But that's not all," he said, his tone shifting. "There's something I want you to understand. This farm, it's not just about the crops. It's about the future of farming. If you're willing to take a risk, to try something radically different, I can help. But it's not going to be easy." Thomas's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Musk took a deep breath. "I'm talking about using technology in ways you've never imagined. Drones, AI-driven irrigation, sustainable energy solutions. We can help you build a future, not just save a farm. But it's going to require a commitment to change, to innovation. And I can't promise it'll work overnight." The weight of his words settled over Thomas like a heavy fog. This was more than just saving the farm. This was a chance to change everything, to make farming part of the future, to reshape everything he knew. But was he ready for that kind of change? Was Sarah ready? Could they really take that leap, or would it all fall apart? The silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. Both of them knew that this was the turning point, but what would they decide? Would they take the chance on Musk's bold vision, or would they let it slip away like everything else? Stay tuned, because the decision is about to come, and it will change everything. The air between them hung heavy, charged with anticipation. Thomas felt his mind racing, the weight of Musk's words sinking in, but the fear of change kept him rooted in place. Could he really take the leap into the unknown? Could he trust that this technological revolution would save not only his farm, but his future? And what would it mean for Sarah, who had always believed in the simple, steady life they had built on this land? Sarah stood next to Thomas, her hand resting lightly on his arm, sensing his hesitation. She had always supported him through thick and thin, but this felt different. She could feel the tension in the air, could sense that this moment was a crossroads not just for their farm, but for their family. "Thomas," she said softly, her voice breaking the silence, "maybe this is the chance we've been waiting for. Maybe we don't have to keep fighting a battle we can't win on our own." Her words pierced through the fog of doubt in his mind. He looked at her, her face full of hope, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of belief stir inside him. Perhaps this was what they needed to not just survive, but thrive. Musk, sensing the shift, stepped forward. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said, his voice reassuring. "But I've seen firsthand what technology can do for agriculture. It can be a game changer. And I'm here to help you make that change. You don't have to do this alone." Thomas took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. "What's the first step?" he asked, the words coming out more confidently than he felt. Musk smiled. "First, we need to assess the land, the resources, and see where the technology fits. But we'll start small, testing things, learning as we go. You'll have the support, the resources, and the expertise to guide you. We'll build it together. It was a big promise, and it sounded too good to be true. But Thomas had learned something over the past few years. The world wasn't going to hand him the answers. And if he didn't take this chance, he might never get another one. He turned to Sarah, who gave him a nod of silent encouragement. It was time to take that leap. "I'm in," Thomas said, his voice steady now. "Let's do this." Musk's eyes sparkled with approval. "Good, let's get to work." Over the following months, things moved quickly. The first step was to integrate drones into the farming process, using them to monitor crop health, analyze soil conditions, and improve irrigation systems. Then came the AI-powered tools to help predict weather patterns and optimize harvests. Musk's team sent experts to train Thomas and Sarah, showing them how to use the new technology and incorporate it into their daily routines. It was a steep learning curve, but little by little, they started to see results. The soil, once worn down by years of struggle, began to show signs of life again. Crops that had once failed began to flourish under the new, more efficient irrigation systems. It was slow at first, but every sign of growth felt like a victory. As the seasons passed, Thomas and Sarah found themselves more hopeful than they had been in years. The farm wasn't just surviving, it was evolving, transforming into something they had never imagined possible. They had become part of a larger vision, one that connected technology with the land in a way that felt right. The work was hard, and there were setbacks along the way, but the possibilities felt endless now. The future didn't look so uncertain anymore. One afternoon, as they stood together on the porch, looking out over the fields that had once seemed so barren, Thomas couldn't help but smile. He turned to Sarah, who stood beside him, her eyes bright with pride. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "We're not just keeping the farm alive. We're building something new." Sarah nodded, squeezing his hand. "We're not alone anymore. We have a future." But the true turning point came when Thomas received an unexpected phone call. This time, it wasn't from Musk's team. It was from a major agricultural corporation interested in partnering with him to expand the innovative farming techniques they had started. They were impressed by what they saw happening on the farm and wanted to help scale the project. The future of farming had arrived, and Thomas and Sarah had found their place in it. Months later, the farm was thriving, and the small rural town was taking notice. What had once seemed like a dying industry was now on the cutting edge of agricultural innovation. Thomas's story became a symbol of resilience, of hope, and of the power of believing in something greater than what the world around you tells you is possible. And for Elon Musk, it was a reminder of why he did what he did, why he pushed boundaries and defied expectations. It wasn't just about rockets or electric cars. It was about giving people the tools to change their lives, to create something new. Musk's investment in Thomas and his farm had paid off, but more than that, it had sparked a movement, a revolution in how we think about the future of food, technology, and the planet. As for Thomas and Sarah, they had learned that the greatest breakthroughs don't always come from what you expect. Sometimes they come from the places you least expect them, from the darkest times when hope seems lost, to the smallest acts of reaching out for help. And as the sun set over the fields, Thomas looked out at the land he had fought so hard to save, knowing one thing for sure: the future was now. "I want to help you," Musk continued. "I've got a team that's building a new project, something that focuses on customer experience and employee empowerment. You've got the kind of mindset we need. I'd like you to come work with us." It was an offer Alex never could have dreamed of, but it wasn't just about the job. It was about being part of something that valued human connection over corporate protocol. It was about making a real difference. Alex was stunned, not sure how to respond, But before they could speak, Musk added, "And don't worry about your old company. I've already made a call. They're going to reinstate you with back pay." It was a surreal moment. Alex had gone from being fired to being offered an opportunity that could change their life forever. The thought of returning to the company that had let them go wasn't ideal, but the decision to stand up for what was right had come full circle. They had done the right thing, and now they had the chance to make sure that others could do the same, without fear of losing their job. In the following weeks, the story made headlines across the world. The company that had fired Alex issued a public apology, not only reinstating them, but also pledging to review its policies on customer service and employee decision-making. The incident sparked a wider conversation about the role of compassion in business. People started asking the tough questions. Should companies really be so rigid? Shouldn't we be considering the human side of things, especially when it comes to employees who are on the front lines, making life-changing decisions for customers? For Alex, the experience was transformative. They took the job offer with Musk's team, and it didn't take long to see the impact of their work. Not only did they get to help shape a new approach to customer service, but they also became a symbol of what happens when one person's decision to act with integrity challenges the entire system. Alex wasn't just a worker. They were an advocate for change, a voice for those who believed that business could be about more than just following the rules. It could be about making the world a better place, one small act of kindness at a time. The story didn't just end with Alexa's success. It sparked something bigger. The company that had fired Alex faced backlash from its own employees and customers. New policies were introduced, ones that encouraged employees to go beyond the script, to show empathy, and to use their judgment to make decisions that benefited the customer. It was a wake-up call for corporations everywhere. Rules might be important, but humanity always has to come first. Looking back, Alex realized something important. It wasn't just about getting their job back or landing a new position with a high-profile company. It was about the power of standing up for what's right, no matter the consequences. It was about the idea that sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can turn into something that changes the world. And for Alex, that's exactly what happened. The lesson was clear. When you put people before policies, when you make choices based on empathy, and not just procedure, you change the game. And in this case, it was one worker who did just that, proving that doing the right thing can lead to incredible, unexpected opportunities.